I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus, I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus, I was evil. I never should.
No. So I'm working on a horror screenplay that's about cults, and I went to the satanic ritual thing last Friday night for inspiration.
I can't tell if you're joking or not.
No, I'm dead serious. So here's the deal.
It's real boot leather. It's some real boot leather journalism.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It was on.
I like it.
It was on Eventbrite. This is not like a word of mouth. Like
satanic. That doesn't count. You found a satanic gathering on Eventbrite.
Yeah,
it's like Meetup. on
pretty
Meetup.
much. So here's the thing. So the reason I went to it is because there was a gothic art show thing. So I thought, it might be kind of cool to check out, and it was free. And but the night before, we're gonna be hosting this ritual thing to kick off the art event. So I was like, okay, I'll go to that. It was really goofy. I have no time for Satanism. I'm not interested in Satanism, but I mean, it was so goofy. Yeah. So like, it was.
You don't have the patience for it.
It's I know it's just a waste of time. Like I have better things. I have other things to do. But it was lorded over by this married couple, this gothic married couple, and the chick's name is I probably shouldn't say. I mean,
don't say her name.
Yeah, I won't say. But anyway, it was just really silly, and they had like these like they turned the lights off, and then it was very theatrical, which was kind of fun. But they turned the lights off.
Did you pay money for this?
No, this is free. Okay. Also, I forgot to pay for alcohol because like, we have a donation thing, and I was like, okay, I'll Venmo you a few bucks, and then it wasn't working, so I was like, thank you, I just donated. So if anything, I actually got some.
So you got a free drink.
Yeah, I got free drink and snacks and stuff. But
and you got on the same page as the Dark Lord.
Well, I didn't participate. So they were actually passing out apples just before the ritual, because I guess taking a bite of the forbidden, the tree of knowledge, I guess, which is what you're not supposed to do in the Bible. But I didn't get an apple. I was in a different gallery, so I didn't get an apple. I couldn't participate.
Was this like? I'm so confused. Was this like an art exhibit?
It was in an art gallery, and it was supposed to be kicking off like an art show.
I see. Was the art show like satanic themed? Was that?
No, it was just local gothic, dark themed art. Not explicitly Satanist.
I like a lot of that, but
yeah, it was cool. Well, my problem with a lot of gothic art, I'm definitely drawn to like darker, edgier art, but this was like about as edgy as like it was slightly edgier than hanging out in a Hot Topic for 3 hours. It was slightly more edgy and provocative, but it was still kind of like, all right, like bubblegum goth, like cotton candy suicide, like just sort of like silly. Like it's dark. I've
never heard the term bubblegum goth, but I love it.
I mean, that's what it's just like. It's like dark and edgy, but it's got some neon colors and it's got some cartoon characters. And it's just sort of like, it's not that edgy.
It's like My Chemical Romance.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like it's gothic and edgy for 12-year-olds, like chubby,
in the suburbs. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the stupid ritual, it was, I kind of went through that phase too, but the ritual itself was dumb. It was so silly because like the guy, like he just like the Reverend just took himself so seriously. He had these 4 disciples, I guess, and he's reading like he's reading some Latin and then some other stupid language. And then he has them bring a Bible out, and then it's like, okay, now desecrate the Bible. So they spat on the Bible, and then they ripped pages out, and then threw it on the ground and stepped on it. And like these were all adults. Like the event was 21 and over, but it's like it just felt like a 15-year-old's like rebellious thing to do.
Screw you, Dad! I'm gonna go to church anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna spit on your Bible. Yeah. It was a fun theatrical experience, as dumb as it was. It was sort of like, all right, well, this is cool. Like, and I actually got some inspiration for the script. It actually kind of contributed some stuff to the script I'm working on. So. All
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That sounds like very Los Angeles of you.
Yeah. Well, and then this Saturday night, I'm going to another gothic art show. This one I do have to pay for, but it's a little more legit. But the cool thing about it is that it goes from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So it starts late. And
the witching hour.
I know, yeah. And they got like palm reading, and then they got a little more. It looks like a little more organized. So this be interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, my favorite's like the voodoo people in New Orleans who will. They're like white chicks from the Midwest who go down there to like fiddle with tarot cards and then read your palms and shit in Jackson Square or whatever. But anyway, whatever.
What about you, man? Have you visited any cults or dabbled in any blasphemy?
Cults? Not
for creative purposes.
No, not recently.
Oh.
I haven't been doing any of that, but I have been reading up on the articles that you sent me.
Yeah.
So I did my homework this episode.
Good, finally. Right after you've been fired.
Sometimes I just show up and shoot from the hip. So I did my homework this episode, and I'm ready to talk about it.
Oh.
I don't know if this... Yeah, well, always. But I don't know if this... the first one we're going to talk about counts as a Robespierre of the week. I can't tell because I don't really know. I think it might be for the listeners. Robespierre of the week is a recurring segment we do where a already very I guess liberal is the right term. I don't even know what terms to use anymore. Identitarian, super progressive, whatever you want to call it, person messes up and then gets axed, and they get proverbially beheaded. That's the right term. Like Robespierre, even though I don't know if that's really historically accurate, but hey, we're going with that. So anyway, this one is called. There's actually some of this like I actually want to read because it's really funny. Basically, like usual, why I love this article so much and why I texted you about it. Is because it's really an epitome situation of the crits eating themselves. So this is in the world of sci-fi, which I love. I'm a big sci-fi fan. I kind of write sci-fi or dystopian sci-fi sometimes. And here we have the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association. So according to this article, this is from, is it Ricochet? I don't really know what that is. And I don't even know who the author is because it's like not a full name. Di Brosa. This came out a couple days ago. Do you know him?
No, I don't.
Okay. So anyway, I really like his article. And it's basically, it says, this past week, the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association, SFWA, turned on one of the most reliably liberal and accepting members who had just received the prestigious award of Grand Master status at their Nebula convention and kicked her and her husband, who wasn't even present, out of the convention. I love that line. Yeah, so what? So most reliably liberal and accepting member. So I do think this counts as our Robespierre of the week.
Yep.
I'm going to take his word for it because I don't feel like doing any research on it. But basically, her name is Mercedes Lackey. She said, which I don't even fully understand what is controversial about this. Like a lot of times I try and see where the controversy is.
Yeah. And
so why she's under fire was because she said that, hold on. What did she even say?
She used the term colored person instead of
No. That was second. This is about trans.
Oh, the trans thing.
Yeah, where it's like basically she's saying to just stick with the same pronouns throughout the work.
Yeah.
Right? Like if an editor says to stick with the same pronouns throughout a work, to do that. And she didn't push back on that. And the criticism is, well, what about gender fluidity? So it's not even really trans. It's gender fluid.
Yeah.
That's what got her in hot water first. So using this was from a 2017 Quora response. So again, this is 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Response to her feelings towards using chosen pronouns at the time. Okay, here it is. Let me read it. The SWFA had to wring an apology out of her about her advice to aspiring writers that copy editors are going to force you to choose a set of pronouns for your trans character and force you to stick with it. And thus, if you truly want to write a fluid character, it is better to but it is better to refer it. That part's not well written by name or title. So basically, it's saying if it's a trans character who is a trans woman, to use she, or if it's a trans man, to use he. Right? That's not. Right. I don't see how on God's green earth is that controversial. It's not saying don't write trans characters. Right. It's saying just stick with the right pronouns, and then that, of course, for anyway. Right. So you don't want to be using the same different pronouns for the same character. Then this part is very funny. I kind of have an anecdote here about this, but the same concept. And basically, she says, so that was the first thing. Then during a conference, she calls another writer colored. Now, obviously, when we hear colored, it's very antiquated and immediately shoots us right back to like the 1950s. Right? No one says colored anymore. However, my defense of her is that there's so much talk now in the past however many years, like 5-6 years or whatever it is, of people of color. Like that wasn't used very often for a while. It was Black or Latino, right? It's this lumping together of people of color. So again, it's like one of these things where used to say homeless and now you're supposed to say the unhoused. It's the same fucking thing.
Exactly.
It's just moving the words around because of it sounds different right now.
Right.
And I think she just had a slip of the tongue here where she just used colored instead of person of color. Like it's so similar. And I think people get so nervous about using the right term that they actually end up using a more offensive term. And why I said I had an anecdote about this is because I saw this happen. I witnessed this happen back in, this was like 2013. I was at orientation for, I graduated college and I moved to Spain for a year to be a teacher. And I was at orientation, and my roommate, coincidentally, he was my roommate just for these few weeks when we were in Seville before we all kind of branched off to our respective cities and towns. He's kind of an awkward kid. He seemed nice. He's like from the Midwest, a white guy. I think he went to Purdue or he had gone to Purdue, and he called a girl colored. Like I don't think it was to her, but like in reference to her. It was a Black girl.
Right.
And you could tell he was trying to say the right thing, because around that time and a little before that, even, like it used to be, well, it's a Black or African American. Like for a while it was just Black, and then I feel like in the 90s and 2000s it was like, well, it's African American or Black. And I remember teachers and in school, like growing up in high school, I feel like in the 2000s it was Black, I mean African American, and that, and that was kind of on the cusp of that, like coming out of that, where I think he wanted to say Black, got so flustered to not say the wrong thing, because we're all meeting each other, we're all from different parts of the country, and everyone wants to, no one wants to offend anyone, and in so doing he says something even more antiquated than just saying so and so who's Black, or who is that Black girl, or whatever, just as an identifier, because that's a natural thing to do. He wasn't saying like, oh, that colored woman, like it wasn't like it was the 1950s, but he used that term. So that's why I feel like that's what happened here. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing: when you look at her Twitter feed, like she's a very woke person. Like,
as far as I know, looked at her Twitter feed. I have not.
No, she's talking about being an ally, and she's and all that stuff. So, and then her husband has a rainbow flag in his Twitter.
Even though he's married to a woman.
Yeah, which fine, sure, whatever. But it's like as far as I know, she does not have a history of racism. Like I think you're right. This is probably just a slip of the tongue. She got two words in the wrong order. Colored person of color, colored person. It's like this is probably what happened.
Well, we haven't even gotten to the response. So let's go a step back here. Sorry, we're gonna have order here. Back to the trans. What she said about trans. So again, all she said, I'm going to repeat it. All she said was, when a copy editor, like basically a copy editor is going to say to, and again, she's even saying the copy editors are going to force you to choose a set of pronouns. So she's not saying you should do this. She's kind of being like, this is what you should expect. And that, to stick to a set of pronouns for a trans character, which will make, or do this if the character is gender fluid, right? They start to, they start putting her in the guillotine, and she says, before all else, this is her apology. Trans women are women and trans men are men. This is something I fiercely believe and will always support. I have made awkward statements that have caused pain or distress. My desire is and has always been to support the trans community and be the best ally I can. I regret that I communicated poorly and fell short of the mark. I'm affirming here that I do and always will support trans rights and trans people. An individual's pronouns are every bit as valid and far more important than the dictates of copy editors in the commercial publishing industry. First of all, it's not if they're controlling whether your book is published. Then I wish I'd listened to you and fought for those pronouns when copy editors changed them. So she's getting executed for not fighting back against the evil copy editors. I'm not done. I've never felt that I had the ability to write trans point of view characters well, and I expressed that badly in the past. Trans characters in fiction are more than just their gender, and their stories should show the richness of their whole lives in full. I am grateful for the many authors who are doing that well today. They are inspiring. I'll do everything in my power to continue to grow and learn, and as I feel we all should. I've learned a lot from patient friends and fans. I apologize for hurting people. Well, she is directly responsible for trans death. I think that's proven. So, and I'd like to read the author's response, because this is why I love this so much, because he basically just writes what we would write. So he says, I mean, this apology has it all. She abases herself before the mob. She admits that she caused distress and could have done better. That she was ignorant of the proper way of dealing with the topic, even though that proper way wasn't around when she made some of the statements. She even admits that in attempting to write trans characters, she was causing pain to trans people because she can never truly understand them. Mao would have been proud of the struggles. So that's really, I mean, it has, the author is right. The author of this article is right. This has it all. Right. Like, she is just on hands and knees in front of the mob, begging to not punish her for something that wasn't even quote unquote like illegal back when she said it. And it's so anodyne and so like, oh my God. And to think that you have to go through this and did she lose? Was she removed from things? Was she like canceled, or she's criticized?
No, I know that she's not going to be able to participate in a panel.
That's so that's being canceled. She was canceled, right?
Yeah.
Any sort of censorship or removal. Yeah. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. It's every time I see the term resurfaced in these types of things, it's like, no, it didn't just bubble up accidentally. Somebody dug this up.
Like, oh, there it is.
Exactly. Where did this come from? It just showed up to the top of my Google search. It's like somebody excavated it. Which is, that's the thing. It's I've written about this in the past on Medium, where it's like when you sign up with the woke mob, I mean, it's like signing up with, like mobsters. It's like, okay, like we'll protect you, but you got to pay your dues. You got to make sure that it's like you have to like check off all these boxes. Like they can't just accept you for who you are. Like you have to make sure that you toe the line, and if you get out of line, then we got dirt on you. So it's insane. It's like these are sort of like weird, like almost like digital paparazzis, like just like going through everything that you've ever said and done, and making sure that it's being that they can use it for like any kind of dirt to use against you. It's insane.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell from this because it says one was from a reader Q&A conducted in 2003, and another was 2017. I don't know what is what though. So it was she was saying this in 2003 and they're using it against her. That is
Yeah, almost 20 years ago.
That's insane. And that for her to, like he says, like debase herself like this is, oh my God. And so next, if that wasn't enough for this poor woman, fast forward to the nebulas, I guess that is, and Ms. Lackey is on a panel called Romancing Sci-Fi and Fantasy, and they're discussing the work of Samuel R. Delany. During the conversation about Mr. Delaney's books, Ms. Lackey referred to him as a colored person while praising his body of work. The SWFA has graciously removed the video of the panel from their website. So great is the shame of this racial slur. So again, I think like obviously it's not what you should say now because of the connotations it has, but like you can see that this was not a derogatory term. Like it was not intentional. She's praising his work. Yeah. Like you said, she's an ally, right? A self-identifying ally. Mm-hmm. And of course and here it's right here. So here's a tweet. I don't always love going to tweets, but fine, it's fun. So this is from and I'm going to say it's person because it's on Twitter. Jen in the lib. I'm sure it means library. Her name's Jen Brown. So the Romancing Sci-Fi and Fantasy panel wrapped. Instead of celebrating, I'm here, holding grief and frustration over what happens when language is misused, in parentheses, regardless of intent. This was from a few days ago. This was May 21st. Like, regardless of intent, like the slip of the tongue. Right. And she's obviously so hyper-focused on using the right words that she uses a much worse word because she's trying to not get, I mean, she basically shot herself in the foot, but
the thread by this woman is
it's like chef's kiss.
Yeah, I mean, I won't go through the whole thing. It's kind of like, but I'll read a few highlights here. So when she's talking, when she heard the term colored person, hearing this, I had an out-of-body experience. I typed by colored, surely you mean black, into the chat, then deleted it. Seconds later, I deleted several more. Let's backtrack and restate that messages, feeling shaky and out of it. Okay, so I guess this was being broadcast. It was like a Zoom call, like one of those what do you call those things? I guess it's like a Zoom thing or whatever. When folks fuck up, it's important to call that out, even when things are done in a spirit of warmth and kindness.
So I'm quote tweeting it right now with the guillotine gif, which is one of my favorites.
I was the only black panelist. I'm a newer author without many publishing credits. I'm in my early 30s and was referred to as young during the panel. That's fine. I am young. Those aren't excuses, but they are illustrative of the power differentials at play in SFF. That's the thing. I mean, someone being in their early 30s being called young, you'd think that'd be a compliment, or at the very least, just sort of like, yeah, who gives a shit? Why does like the fact that she had to bring that up? That's the thing. Like, every little slip up, we have to shine a spotlight on it, and that's automatically indicative of your character.
Yeah, I mean, it's this is religion. Yeah, we've said it 1,000 times. Yeah. Sorry, I was shit posting. No. But I did because I couldn't comment on it, so I quote tweeted it, and I said the guillotine gif, and it's the only proper solution for the wrong speak crime. So
I'm gonna like it.
Thanks, dude. Thanks, bro. Okay. So let's read the response. Oh my God, I love the last part here. So, dear Nebula Conference participants and SFWA members, we learned yesterday that while participating in the Romancing Sci-Fi and Fantasy panel, Mercedes Lackey used a racial slur. First, we apologize to our attendees and other panelists who were subjected to that slur. We've disabled access to the panel to avoid any additional harm being caused. Amazing. Second, we are immediately removing Mercedes Lackey from the conference and the additional panels she was scheduled for in accordance with SFWA's moderation policy, so we can take her outside and shoot her in the head. I added that last part. The use of a racial slur violates the instruction to respect all cultures and communities. Do not make derogatory, offensive statements, even as a joke. That applies to everyone in an SFWA space at all levels of the career. And then I love how the author puts, the NAACP cannot be reached for comment. The sources say that Mr. Delaney did not take offense.
I bet you they wouldn't care if she said, some racial slurs about white people. Like, I mean, I'm sure you can toss those around. That doesn't violate their. I
strictly call white people crackers. No, that's all. I only refer to them as crackers.
Yeah, so that's what's going on in the literary world.
What's going on in the sci-fi world? You wonder why I refuse to attempt to get traditionally published, because you have to deal. It's hard enough to just write a fucking book, and then you have to deal with this shit. Like, it's crazy, and I don't know why. It's like, it would just be nice if Ms. Lackey was just like, are you serious?
No.
Just like, okay, for the trans thing, it's like I said that in 2003. It makes sense for these reasons, and I'm sorry if it offends you. And like, instead of just doing this instead of this prostration and self-flagellation in front of your colleagues, and the other one was just a slip of the tongue. Just say, I meant to say person of color instead of colored person. Like, that's all it is. Person of color. It's like person of color equals progressive. Colored person equals like Bull Connor. It's like, it's so crazy how that one and of course the psycho she, her, bi librarian, person of color librarian says it in her first tweet, regardless of intent.
Exactly.
Like, what kind of culture do we want where it doesn't matter, like, regardless of intent? Like, that's a huge part of our legal system. That's a huge part of like how we operate in just social interactions.
Right, exactly. I mean, like, do you know how easy it would be to just, like, every single time somebody mispronounces your name, or they make a joke that slightly goes a little too far, and like every single time you have to make a big stink about it, you have to argue with that person, you have to call them out. So what a terrible high frequency way of living. It's just like constantly on the edge, like is hunting for reasons to be pissed off.
Well, that's a great segue into, I think, the Dave Chappelle piece we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Well,
God. Oh, God.
Unsurprisingly.
Real quick, actually, I don't want to, because that is a great segue, but her husband.
Segue. What about her husband?
He tweeted about the incident.
Oh, yeah.
Let's hear that. It's a 16 tweet thread, but I only have a few screenshots here, so I'll
of course it is.
Additionally, an official statement was shotgunned out from the SFWA board members, apparently to everyone on the mailing list, that Mercedes Lackey used a racial slur. She said colored during a multiracial panel, the same word the NAACP uses. She is horrified.
Yeah, that's right. The CNNAACP does for colored people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he's referring to his wife here. She is horrified by this. She is shivering, crying uncontrollably. She's been
literally literally shaking.
Yeah, yeah. She is shooketh. Since she was a teen, she fought for civil rights, gay rights, trans rights. Her work is about inclusivity and consideration of others. She was just done wrong in a devastating way. Obviously, the wording was a mistake, but the reasons don't matter. The person doesn't matter. What matters to the mob is that there's someone to savage. In righteously doing so, you're doing evil. Back off on the teaching and finger shaking. So,
okay, so her husband actually sticks up for her.
He does, and rightfully so. I mean, I'm a little confused because he's got a rainbow flag in his Twitter profile, but okay, all right, he's at least nuanced.
Well, he's voting Republican in the midterms. I can tell you that much.
I know. But yeah, I mean, like, no, he makes an absolutely good point about intent here. And also, if what he's saying is true about her, shivering and crying and everything, it's so funny that the woke are so obsessed with mental health. And all this stuff, which again, like we've talked before, like, sure, that's great. We should, destigmatize a lot of mental health conditions, but they don't give one fuck about a mob going after a person and just like sending them death threats and
they destroy people.
Exactly. And it's like, if this person has suicidal
people.
thoughts, has suicidal thoughts and depression and anxiety from this, they don't give a fuck. All of that mental health stuff goes right out the fucking window.
Because they committed a cardinal sin, and
exactly. Yeah.
it's not enough to just atone. Like you have, so actually, okay, so this is being covered. Okay. All right, Jesse Single's talking about this too.
What's he saying? Does he say anything interesting?
Well, not as interesting as us.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to see if she has. I'm assuming she deleted Twitter. I was going to tag her when we post this, letting her know that she was Robespierre of the week. I think she should know. Oh no, she's right here.
Yeah.
All right, good. All right. Should we move on?
Yes.
I think like we could do Chappelle and Gervais in one. Well, I mean, we can kind of talk about them together if you want, or
let's do that because they're both comedy. This is what's going. This is stupidity going on in the comedy world now.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me pull it up. Let me pull up the Gervais. Okay, so basically, we all know Dave Chappelle was attacked on stage, which is like the least surprising thing ever.
At the Hollywood Bowl.
At the Hollywood Bowl, because nothing good ever happens in Los Angeles. Oh. So, I mean, prove me wrong, Joe. Prove me wrong.
No, you're right.
Every hashtag, everything is terrible.
It's basically Ohio here. You're right.
I think I'd rather be in Ohio. No, Ohio's cool. No, I'm kidding. LA's cool at some parts. There are a few parts. Venice. The Venice canals were cool.
Yeah.
I would live there.
No.
All right. So okay. So he was attacked. Dave Chappelle was attacked on stage, because apparently a man named Isaiah Lee was triggered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading that from this. Those are not my words. He stormed the stage in Los Angeles and tried to tackle Chappelle while carrying a folding knife attached to a fake replica firearm. So I didn't really understand what that meant. Like I saw it. I don't know why. Why would you have the knife attached to that thing? I mean, he's crazy, so I don't know why. I'm asking. But he says for a number of reasons. I mean, it's like, what did he say? So one, gay jokes, which I didn't know Chappelle's really making gay jokes. I thought it was more trans, but he says gay. I know Chappelle has made gay jokes, but I didn't think that would be the issue. Then homelessness, and then pedophilia. Now, the note on pedophilia is it wasn't even Dave Chappelle. It was a comedian in the show's lineup, which Lee said. So the breaking point came when another comedian in the show's lineup made a joke about pedophilia, which Lee said brought back memories of being molested when he was 17. Okay, why didn't you attack that comedian?
I know, yeah. Well, his quote here, I just want to read real quick. I identify as bisexual, and I wanted him to know, him being Dave Chappelle, to know what he said was triggering. I wanted him to know that next time he should consider first running his material by people it could affect.
Yeah, that's great for comedy. It's running through a panel of people that are 100% going to be offended. That'll be great.
I think I brought this up on a previous episode, but here in LA, there's an article. I can't remember which publication it was, but it was talking about this socialist comedians collective in LA.
Sure,
and how we should have talked about this. This is months ago. This is a while back, but it was but they were talking about how, like, if a comedian in their group makes a problematic joke, like, oh, like, we don't believe in canceling comedians because they said an offensive joke. So if there is an offended comedian, what we would recommend they do is take a class in sensitivity, and then they can go back to doing stand-up. It's like, that's what I want my comedians to do is to take sensitivity classes.
It's like getting points on your license. You have to go to driving school or something.
Yeah. But that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, like, a big part of the attraction to comedians is, like, they're sort of, creative anarchists. Like, they're the ones who can just kind of say whatever the hell they want, and because they can get away with it.
Yeah, well, if anything, they used to be able to.
I know. Yeah, I mean, if anything, I feel like going to a comedy show is in many ways a safe space. It's a place where you can laugh at things you normally probably wouldn't be able to laugh at in the workplace or around in front of your parents. You can laugh here at offensive jokes about whatever you want, and it's fine because when you leave the theater, then you just go back to living your regular life. You've got friends and family and a job, and then you're not going out and acting on those things that you were laughing at. It's a safe space for comedy, for like those dark impulses that a lot of us have. So I mean, like the fact that like there's this push to get comedians to be more sensitive. I was like, no, we go to comedians to let off steam, to kind of it's a relief from like not being able to laugh at certain things.
Yeah, they make the points that a lot of us are thinking, and they do it in a funny way, or they broach topics that you can't broach in the office. It's, and a lot of times they put things in context that makes you think. It makes you go, it's a good point. Or and it's also just like let off steam and to laugh at yourself too. Like I mean, again, I don't think this is even close to a majority. It like a lot of the shit, it's a insane fringe that at this point is getting violent, and I only think this is going to happen more.
Right.
Like, I don't think this was this is an isolated incident. I think this is going to happen more because people are seeing it. And I mean, after the Will Smith thing, are we surprised? Like, are we surprised that someone attacked someone else on stage, and all the attention that Chappelle got? And first of all, I want to say, why did you say I identify as bisexual? What happened to just saying like I like cock and box? Like, why can't you say I like them both? Like, why is everything that I identify? Like, you just are. You're bisexual. Just say it. Anyway, I don't get that. It's one of those new language things, like lived experience. Like, that's redundant. It's the same thing. All right. So what? So. And of course, and the best part is that this guy will probably be on the town council in 6 months, on city council in LA, because he probably will get everything dropped because your DA is an absolute psychopath who George Soros can't funded his campaign because George Soros is a reptilian monster.
Or at the very least, expect him to Isaiah Lee to run for, I don't know, like, president of the school district or something.
Oh, and win by a landslide. Like be the spokesperson. Yeah, he'll be out in no time. Actually, I did note down here they did kind of get into the legal part of it. So the city attorney, when announcing the charges, LA City Attorney Mike Fuhr, that's not a great name, seemed to issue a veiled criticism of the DA. My office takes protecting public safety extremely serious. Wait, so LA City, I guess because there's LA County and LA City, right? Because Gascon is, I think he's facing a recall, which California's is recall happy, which I love. I never found out about the recall that we were observing when we were there in the Venice canals. That guy was fucked. Like, whoever that guy was, I have to check if he was recalled. I know they're recalling the DA of San Francisco. Chesa Boudin, because again, and you should go listen to our episode titled "Don't Piss Off Asian Parents," because they are coming for you. Gascon is going to get, probably, I don't know if he will, but I hope so. He's a psychopath. I think these guys are fucking insane. Like, they're crazy people. I don't mean Isaiah Lee. I mean the lawyers, the DA, and the city attorneys. Anyway, so Ricky Gervais is next on the gonna get attacked on stage 100%. And I don't think Ricky Gervais can take a shot like that, like Dave Chappelle can. Dave Chappelle's pretty buff. Like, he was skinny, I feel like, back during Chappelle's show, but now he's like a thicker guy. And I don't know if Ricky Gervais can take that kind of hit.
He's kind of old and kind of flabby and kind of British. I don't know.
He's amazing. And sometimes when I need a laugh, I just go listen to his Golden Globes. Which was from like maybe 2018, 2019, wherever it was. He's just saying everything we all think. Like, none of, like, don't come up, accept your little award to get the fuck off the stage. No one cares what you have to say. You have nothing in common with with everyday people.
You're less educated than Greta Thunberg. Like,
and
it's funny. Like, it's funny that he caught flack for that, because it's like, oh, how dare one millionaire make jokes about other millionaires? It's like, oh, yeah, that's
right. I thought punching
about.
up. I thought you're allowed to punch up. Right? Yeah. I mean, what's a better example of punching up than ripping on a bunch of multi-millionaire celebrities in Los Angeles? Like,
right. Yeah.
So anyway, did you watch this special, by the way?
I did not, but I did watch the clip that's being going around.
All right.
Yeah.
So basically this is about Ricky Gervais's Netflix comedy special, Supernature. I love it. Has only been released on the streamer for a few hours. Has already drawn criticism for a string of graphic and hurtful transphobic jokes. 4 minutes into the special, Gervais dives into material about the trans community. I love that he goes right for it. And he's doing this because he knows that he's going to get a rise out of everyone. Like if it wasn't, if that, again, I don't think these are trans people. I think it's the trans activists. Most of them probably aren't even trans who make a stink about this and who threaten and who protest and all of that. And that's why he does it. Like if you just laughed, like all the jokes about everyone else, about the Jews and black people and white people and Muslims or whatever it is, Muslims sometimes take it too far, but like everyone else, I don't think he would go for start at 4 minutes in making the jokes. But anyway, should I read it? Sometimes reading jokes aren't, it sounds like a deposition, but should I read the offending discourse or no?
You're a lawyer. Yeah, I treat it like a deposition.
No, I'll read it I'll read it. I'll try and do him justice here. So it's like, oh, women, he starts. Not all women. I mean, the old-fashioned ones. The old-fashioned women. The ones with wombs. Those fucking dinosaurs. I love the new women. They're great, aren't they? The new ones we've been seeing lately. The ones with beards and cocks. They're as good as gold. I love them. And now the old-fashioned ones say, oh, they want to use our toilets. Why shouldn't they use your toilets? For ladies. They are ladies. Look at their pronouns. What about this person? What about this person isn't a lady? Well, his penis, her penis, you fucking bigot. What if he rapes me? What if she rapes you, you fucking turf whore? I don't think I have to explain the joke there, but
So I have here this tweet. This is from 2019. And I'm sure it was let's see, if it was in 2019, this was January of 2019. So that's usually when the Golden Globes. I think this is right around that time when he did the Golden Globes thing. Anyway, but it's so funny that Ricky Gervais constantly gets he's constantly slapped with, accused of being on the right. So the tweet says, I'm an old-fashioned liberal lefty, champagne socialist type of guy, a pro-equality, opportunity for all, welfare state snowflake. But if I ever defend freedom of speech on here, I'm suddenly an alt-right Nazi. How did that happen? I mean, he's a very left-leaning guy, but and here's the thing, he makes fun of everybody, it's like most comedians.
Yeah. But here's the thing, I hate always having to be like, well, what is left-leaning now? What is liberal? Right. What is progressive? What is conservative? What there's now the new right, and are some of these views, is this left-leaning anymore?
Right.
For instance, I was listening to a podcast today about the new right on Barry Weiss's podcast, and some of the ideas on the new right I love, and I've had before there's ever a new right, and honestly were considered very left-wing not very long ago, extremely anti-war and giving all of our money to other countries. To fight wars or to fight proxy wars. That was a very left-wing thing. Like recently, and now that's a new right. Apparently, a new right staple. Protecting American jobs, giving jobs to Americans, to working class Americans, instead of shipping them overseas, so American billionaires and corporatists can make more money. Like that was very left-wing not very long ago, and now that's on the new right. So. Is free speech, at least in this context, is free speech now a staple of the right wing?
I mean, well, it's I totally get you about the definitions of left and right are kind of meaningless now. It just seems like everything's just shifting all the time.
Or it's changing. It's changing. So the meanings has to change. I don't know if necessarily meaningless. I also think there's more. It's not just one half and one half, like left and right. I think
right.
within those, there's a lot more. And we think like that because we're such a duopoly, where in other countries, there's so many more parties that can be more focused. So at the same time, I don't know, like a lot of the left are the free speech police, but there also are times where the right wing is still doing classic right wing shit, like censoring books. We've gone over on this podcast, so I don't know.
So here's,
do we even have a free? Basically, do we have, like, who is there even a free speech party or free speech sector?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, at least, where it's like the sort of new right, I guess, is doing a better job of fostering or of promoting free speech. And I'm seeing a lot more. I'm seeing a lot of prominent people on the left doing a lot of sort of hedging against freedom of speech. So yeah, look, I'm in favor of free speech. However, there should be consequences for the things you say. And it's like, okay, all right, like,
that's not how it works.
Exactly. Or so, but like a company is it's fully within their right to fire someone for saying something. It's like, wait, but 10 years ago, 12 years ago, like,
that was another example. It used to be, well, this is where the right wing kind of shot themselves in the foot, where it was like, well, a private company can do whatever it wants, and all the private companies became woke, and it's like, well, then we want to punish them. I think really just let it play out, because it doesn't sell. Like we've seen that with Disney and Netflix. Like Netflix, we talked about last episode, had a reversal. And like I read, the Ricky Gervais special is on Netflix, and I don't think there's even been talk of taking it down. Right?
Not that I know, at least not internally that I know of.
Right.
But that,
from Netflix.
But that organization, is it just pronounced GLAAD? GLAAD?
Yeah, GLAAD. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's an article here in Variety. GLAAD calls on Ricky Gervais' Netflix special "Dangerous" and anti-trans rants masquerading as jokes. We watched the Ricky Gervais comedy has quotes around it, comedy special on Netflix, so you don't have to. It's full of graphic, dangerous, anti-trans rants masquerading as jokes. He also spans anti-gay rhetoric and spreads inaccurate information about HIV. Attention, Ricky and Netflix.
I would love to know. Sorry, I didn't. Are we finished?
One more sentence here. Attention, Ricky and Netflix. People living with HIV today, when on effective treatment, lead long and healthy lives and cannot transmit HIV to others. I don't know about the jokes you're referring to, but I guess he makes jokes about it.
Like one thing I find so dangerous to use the same term that I'm going to criticize here is like, where did this discourse come from? And it only comes from the left. Like, this is exclusively Democrat crit lib thing, where the language is either dangerous or harmful or painful or violent. Like, when did that start, and why is it acceptable? And I would love to see if like a comedian or a rapper, what about like "fuck the police"? Would they say, well, fuck the police caused when someone shoots a police officer sitting in their car, right? Completely unprovoked, just sitting there. Well, are we going to blame rap music? Would they say that? Like, no, of course they wouldn't. And neither would we. Right. So like, why does a joke about trans people automatically translate to danger against trans people? But like, if you're saying fuck whitey, and then a non-white person attacks a white person for whatever reason, they're not going to say, well, that caused that. Of course not. That'd be crazy. So I just love how it never goes like that route. It's always just, well, it fits what they want. It's never universally applied.
I've looked at a few studies about how certain forms of art or media could potentially influence someone to commit some kind of like violent act or crime in real life, and like there's almost no correlation whatsoever. Like there's like we saw this with video games and which was coming from the right. We saw this heavy metal music in the 80s, and again coming from the right. But now the left is saying that this thing is dangerous. It's like, dangerous how? What do you mean by that? He wasn't calling for violence against anyone in that special. He's making jokes. So they have a squirrely definition of dangerous and harmful.
Right. I don't know. I like that is the dangerous part, because that leads to shit like the comedian getting attacked, like Dave Chappelle getting attacked on stage.
Right.
I don't think anyone listened to like Dave Chappelle's special or any of his jokes and went out and harmed a trans person.
Right, exactly.
Like using that as their fuel.
Did you ever watch the Jim Norton Lindy West debate from a few years ago? It's like 2015, maybe
No.
maybe even a little earlier. So Jim Norton, he is a radio DJ, podcast host guy. I think he's I think he was on the Opie and Anthony show for a long time. Like he was kind of like part of that crowd. And then Lindy West is a kind of a stereotypical chubby, nerdy feminist. And so they had this debate. It's totally worth watching. It's up on YouTube. It's only like 15, 20 minutes long. It's not that long at all. And it's funny because you would expect Jim Norton, who comes more from like the shock jock sort of caliber, to be edgier and more offensive, but he's super clear and very polite. And every time Lindy West makes a stupid emotional point, he's a comedian, so he can obviously like rip her apart. But he's like, I understand where you're coming from, and I can understand why that would be considered hurtful to you. However, and he's so calm and logical throughout the whole thing. But he brings up a good point about comedy, specifically comedy shows, and he goes, comedians can get up on stage and make the most offensive, hurtful, like the most edgy, provocative jokes about, say, 9/11 for the whole set. Not a single person will walk out of that theater going, 9/11 wasn't that big of a deal, actually. Like that does not happen.
Right.
Right. Like somebody sitting here.
I do know Jim Norton. I've seen him. I just typed it. I saw him on
Rogan. But it's like nobody listens to a few offensive jokes for an hour and then walks on and goes, this completely changed my worldview. I'm gonna go hurt people now. Like that does not happen. And if it does happen, the person was already crazy. Like anything could have provoked them to commit something violent. So it's not the comedian's fault. It's the joke's fault.
Just right. It's what's the example I always use? Who I always forget his fucking name, but the guy who shot Ronald Reagan because he read Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah.
What was that? Who's the Ronald Reagan shooter? Actually, he's out of prison now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Who?
Is he banned from libraries?
Yes. John Hinckley. Yeah, John Hinckley.
Oh,
Jr. Yeah. And I think that was because, like, he saw something and let me see. Am I getting this confused with the Jodie Foster thing?
I don't know. That guy's name, I've definitely heard it, and I know it's associated with something bad.
Yeah, well, he shot around. Oh, yeah, and something else with Jodie Foster.
Same guy?
Yeah, same. I mean, they're both. I don't know. This is bad radio, but I'll look it up for next time. So I feel like I bring this up a lot. That something with the Catcher in the Rye was motivation to shoot Ronald Reagan, or maybe it was to stalk Jodie Foster. I don't remember which one, but it's one of those. Yeah. Anyway, anything else you want to say about the Ricky Gervais? It's kind of the same thing. Like, I don't know. People like, I mean, all these blue checks or non-blue checks tweeting about it. Like you're the reason he does it.
Yeah.
Right. And isn't one of the arguments for it, it's like, if we're going to, like, we want trans people to be considered status quo and part of society. So like making jokes about them and bringing them into the discourse and all of that, like that just normalizes it.
Yeah.
Right. Like back when gay topics were taboo. And I feel like a big part of normalizing it and why gay people are more accepted than ever in American culture is because they were in pop culture more, and they were my electricity is flickered. They weren't put on this like, they weren't this like ultra sensitive topic that you couldn't really touch, that could only be shown in a positive light. Yeah. They were all types of different characters, and they were the butt ends of jokes, and they were the comedians themselves, and sometimes they were stereotypes, but they came in all different shapes and colors and sizes and all of that. And I think the activists and these people who want to tear all this down and censor it, I think they're really doing everyone a disservice.
Yes.
Like, I think
they're doing a disservice to the people that they claim to be on the side of.
Yeah, and I don't like to speak in broad strokes, but I think this is one of the few areas where you can, where trans people, just like anyone else, they just want what everyone else wants. They want a happy life. They want their health, loved ones, satisfaction at your job or in your passions or whatever that is. So I don't know. I of course people are going to get upset, just like people piss off the Christians, and Christians get crazy about shit, right? And that's what's going to happen in Muslims and whoever it is.
Yeah.
But you don't stop doing the jokes. You don't.
Right.
That's not how our society works.
This reminds me, and speaking of GLAAD, I don't know a whole lot about the history of the organization, but it seemed like 20 years ago they were better than they are now. Like,
I think what happened was,
or
I've heard, yes. What happened with GLAAD, I believe, like a lot of these groups, is their focus for years and years and years was gay marriage.
Yes. Yeah.
And then when gay marriage became federally legalized because of the Obergefell ruling in the Supreme Court in 2015 or whenever that was, well, they lost their telos. They lost their reason for existing. So they didn't dissolve. They had to find a new mission, and that mission became trans. Like I remember Katie Herzog did some statistic or found something that was like the percent of what they discuss, and I believe it was GLAAD. It might have been a different group, but like it's overwhelmingly trans issues now. It doesn't, like lesbian, gay male, and like they still have issues. Like there's still problems, but it's almost like that doesn't exist now. It's 100% trans.
Yeah,
like those are the only, and there are legitimate issues for trans people in this country. There are some states that really do discriminate against them, and those should be what the fights are about. That's what the ACLU should be fighting about, not jokes on a Netflix special, but changing some policies in some places where they actually do face discrimination.
Right. So the reason I bring up GLAAD and kind of like the fall from grace of these types of organizations. So back in the, I want to say late 90s, this had to have been like mid to late 90s, because this is when the Simpsons were good. They did an episode that dealt a lot with homosexual, with gay characters. So they brought in that director John Waters, who I believe was gay in real life, and then he played a gay character. And the show, that episode was filled with so many gay stereotypes, but it also made fun of Homer for being insecure and being weirded out by gay people. So it did a good job of making fun of straight people and gay people. It was just sort of like, whatever, like this is just, it's uncomfortable, sure, but whatever, gotta make fun of it. And then, but that episode won a GLAAD award for like its representation of gays, and it was like, thanks for, this is great. Like
now it would probably get
that show would be canceled in half a second.
Yeah, be eviscerated for not having enough two-spirit, non-binary, native people
and
of color,
harmful stereotypes of gay people.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I mean, there's one scene in that episode where Homer's worried that Bart might be turning gay, despite the fact that he's 10 and doesn't know anything about his sexuality. So he's like, I'm going to show him how to be a man. So he takes him to a steel mill, because he thinks like, it's a bunch of manly dudes doing manly things. But the whole, all the big buff dudes are all super gay. And they're really flamboyant, and
they're like sweating and taking their shirts off.
And they're all wearing
like, man, if I wasn't gay before this, I'm gay now.
So like there's gay stereotypes up the wazoo in that episode, but like it's funny, it's silly, it's making fun of, but it's also making fun of Homer for being weirded out, awkward around gay people. So it's like, okay, it's just making fun of everybody, which is the way it should be.
Is Lenny or Carl? Is Lenny gay in the show?
I don't know what the status quo. I haven't watched The Simpsons in like 12 years, but there was a long running sort of like, are they something going on between them?
I thought Lenny loved Carl, but Carl didn't know, because they would always show like his inner monologue. But maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, you're thinking of Mr. Smithers and Mr. Burns.
No, that one's very obvious.
Yeah.
That one's very obvious. Smithers is very much in love with Mr. Burns. No, these are his two friends. One's I guess
one's white, he's black.
Black. I thought one was in love with the other, but they didn't know it. I don't know. The
GLAAD used to have a sense of humor, because they probably knew, like being able to take a joke will make us look good.
I also think everything took a turn on stuff like that. Like everything had to go negative and flame war and angry. Really, I think Twitter has a lot to do with it. Social media, but Twitter's a lot to do with it. You got more. I mean, this has been proven, and social media and if you watch is it the Social Dilemma, the documentary, like nothing gets people more active on social media than anger and misery and those sorts of things. So to gain traction, to gain attention, instead of celebrating something like a Simpsons episode, which will get some, what's the engagement. We'll get way more engagement would be, well, how homophobic is this episode? How transphobic is this episode? How racist is this episode? Right? That gets way more traction because you're going to get people who agree that it's transphobic, let's say, and they're going to go read it for validation or watch the clip for validation. And you're going to get people like us who think it's fucking stupid, but they're going to use it for content and to shit post and to say, look how crazy these people are. And that's, that's been proven.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's funny because, Dave Chappelle could do 50 minutes just ripping on white people, but like the 10 minutes of making fun of LGBTQ people, like that's the thing that'll get the woke out.
I don't know if it's even LGBTQ people anymore. I think it's specifically trans. Like
whatever. But you know what I mean though, where it's like
it's
like I can be as racist, I can be as bigoted towards this one group. It's just like they can be the butt of my jokes nonstop for 90% of my set. But if I make fun of this one group a little bit, that's the thing that's gonna get me in trouble.
Well, that's why I asked you, did you watch the Ricky Gervais special?
Oh yeah, no.
To see if was this an hour of trans jokes or was it 5 minutes? And then he also ripped on Jews and on liberals and on MAGA and on Muslims and all these other groups, right? I don't know. I'll watch it. I like Ricky Gervais. I think sometimes
I'll check it out.
I don't know. Sometimes he would say shit that would piss me off, but that's okay.
Yeah,
like it's fine. I don't think he shouldn't be able to say it.
Right.
Right.
I mean, like getting back to like the sort of the dangerous attraction of comedians. Like when you go to a comedy show, you should go in knowing that somebody at some point might say something that you don't like. Like that's kind of what makes it fun in a way. It's like you don't know what's going to happen.
You know why? Because if you don't do that, if comedians stop doing that, then you get SNL. Because that's what SNL is now. All it is just the seal clap, the clapter of you're saying the center left establishment talking point that I like. You're saying the Jen Psaki, girl boss one-liner that I like, and I'm going to clap about it because it's not funny, right? Yeah. That's why they're not laughing. They're cheering because it's validating. And that's what all comedy is going to be if you don't have people like Ricky Gervais and Dave Chappelle who are saying transgressive or, what's the word I'm looking for? Provocative things, and I don't know. I don't know why this is so hard for people to get. And the scary part of it is it's because they always fall back on violence and harm, which is unproven and not true. And if it happens once in a while, then you still don't shut down all of comedy. Right, you don't shut off an entire topic because honestly, that's just going to attract people with much worse, with much worse intentions to just keep going after that group because they seem like a sacred cow. Right. So I accidentally exited out of our list. What we said, the
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
So this one is just so this is what I'm called the anti-daddy article. That this article is against big age gaps, and we get a hard patriarchy in here, which I love. A hard patriarchy came out of nowhere, came out of left field. Patriarchy! Didn't see that coming. I did not. When I read that, I was like, wait a minute. Okay, so let's give some context because I'm just going off here. So basically, this is in USA Today. This horrible rag of a outlet. So should I just read it? It's not very long.
Yeah, so real quick. So this is Laura Dern and Sam Neill. They're being interviewed to promote the upcoming Jurassic World movie because they're going to be in it, and they were in the original 1993 one. And so, there's been some talk about the age difference between Laura Dern and Sam Neill. I didn't even know about the age difference. I didn't care. I like the dinosaurs.
I did not either. So
but yeah, go for it.
So it says basically, the Dern was a paleobotanist and Grant was a paleontologist, and they're in the original Jurassic Park, and Dern was in her 20s and Neil was in his 40s at the time. First of all, I totally forgot that there is a romantic element to this.
Yeah.
I thought they were just because who has, the kids are the old guys. Grandkids,
yeah.
Okay. So I kind of forgot there's even we're focused on fucking brontosauruses here, but anyway, I'm 20 years older than Laura. This is Neil, by the way. I'm 20 years older than Laura, which at the time was a completely appropriate age difference for a leading man and lady. Neil, 74, told the London Sunday Times. Dern is now 55. So it's 20-year difference. He added, "It never occurred to me until I opened a magazine and there was an article called Old Geezers and Gals. People like Harrison Ford and Sean Connery acting with much younger people." And there I was on the list. I thought, come on, it can't be true. It says there's other movies where the men were much older. Dern also discussed being 20 years junior to Neil. Get ready for it.
Yeah.
At the time, she said she thought it was completely appropriate to fall in love with Sam Neill. And it was only now when we returned in a moment of cultural awareness about the patriarchy that I was like, wow, we're not the same age, Dern said. Jurassic World. Oh, okay. So one, you didn't realize that you were different ages when you shot this? And what's wrong with, this is one of those articles where it's like, there's A and there's B. The A being there's a 20-year age gap between these two characters in this movie, and they have a romantic relationship, and B being the patriarchy. And I don't get how they're connected at all. Like it's very normal for women to like men who are older, and that's just attraction. Like, you can't control who you're attracted to.
Right. So
right?
From my understanding of the current strain of feminism is that even if there's a romantic relationship between a man and woman, and it's like they're both adults, they're both consenting adults.
Yeah.
Simply the fact that if a man is older, considerably older, then there's automatically some kind of power differential.
Okay.
I don't know where they pull that. Like, maybe in the office, maybe, sure, whatever. But it's sort of like there's nothing about that in the movie that would. Yeah, you're right. I don't see why the patriarchy needs to be brought up into the age difference. And here's the thing: when you watch the movie, for me, I thought she was like mid 30s, and I thought he was maybe like mid to late 30s. So it's like, okay, whatever. They're a couple, and whatever.
Yeah, and one, I don't think that's a big 20 years. I mean, is obviously so it is a big age difference, but I didn't think it was like a problem given he's not like 31 and she's 18,
right,
or something. Right. Like, I don't know. I don't. This seemed like fishing. Like, this seemed like a lot, and we don't really know what the interviewer was prodding them with. Like, we didn't see what the question was.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know if this patriarchy just came completely out of left field, or if she was fed a softball, like, a leading question, basically. Like, do you think our moment of cultural awareness and the patriarchy, shaped this relationship? Like, why it was set up this way? Yeah. Now, one thing I do get is not so much the age difference, but like, very often I feel like in movies and shows, men bad up. Like they get women who are way out of their league looks wise.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a problem. Like, I think if you say that's a problem, well, aren't you being kind of superficial? Like, like, people can be attracted to other things too, but like, I do notice a lot of times that it feels like the woman is much better looking and the man is not. I don't know. Like, what are we going to start hiring like equitable reasons for less attractive people? Like, I don't think that's a good route to go. Like, you got hired because you're a firm 5.5 out of 10. Like, you're a B-. I don't know. I think this is a stretch. I'm glad you sent me this because it wouldn't even cross my mind. Again, if you told me in Jurassic Park that there was a love story between, I wouldn't even remember it. I'd remember
As
the
far as I
Velociraptors
know,
in the kitchen. Like I wouldn't remember.
yeah.
Like, do they maybe kiss at one point? Like I don't know.
The only part that I know for sure is Jeff Goldblum's character is flirting with Laura Dern's
I
character.
do remember that.
There's a part where it's raining. They're in the Jurassic. They're in the Tyrannosaurus Rex pen, I guess.
Yeah,
And they're in the car and it's raining at night. And then Jeff Goldblum, he turns to Sam Neill and he goes, "Hey, so is Dr. Ellie Sattler? Is she available?" And then he goes, "No." And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you two? Are you guys?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, man." Like that was the only direct reference that I can think of.
I don't even remember that.
Again, it was this dialogue about relationships.
Jeff Goldblum doesn't like. I thought he like touches her knee at one point or something. Is that not?
He's doing the chaos thing on her hand, like
That's
the
it. Yes. That's it. The water droplet thing,
which I've used before in clubs to terrible effect.
Right, did not work out.
Girls are not attracted to chaos for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why. No.
I don't know. But, this was I think I don't know. Like we really.
Well, here's the thing. That bothers me about one of the things that bothers me about it. It's such a superficial thing to worry about. Like I could understand if that was part of the story that hasn't aged well. I can see that people be like, yeah, that's a little uncomfortable today. But like that, the age difference had nothing to do with the plot at all. It didn't factor into it. There was nothing in the film that indicated that. What's his face? Sam Neill's character was taking advantage of Laura Dern's character. There's nothing about it that was like that would make me go, like, oh yeah, that's a little awkward these days. Nothing. It has to do with the age of the actors playing these fictional characters. That's the thing that we're upset about. It has nothing to do with the art.
Yeah, it's like we're talking about fucking Jurassic Park, and it's so it's such a common I don't know if it's trope or I don't know if it's a trope because it's real. Where like I think a lot of young women are attracted to like their professors or bosses or whatever it is, or maybe it is to get a leg up. Like I don't know, and as long as it's their choice.
Right.
I'm watching a movie right now. Like I started last night, what I call Breathless with Richard Gere and this French actress. And it's not very good. It's okay. I'm gonna finish it tonight.
Have you seen the original French New Wave film?
Oh, is that what?
The Richard Gere was a remake.
Oh, okay. It's a good art. It's a good art film. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, the actress is French. So maybe she's in both movies. I don't know. I think her name's like Kaminsky or something.
I don't remember. Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, this character she's a college student and she's very clearly banging someone at her university. I don't know if it's a professor or who to move up in her career. And she's totally fine with it. Like she doesn't seem to resent it at all. She doesn't seem to, it seems like she's having a good time. She dresses up. She goes to nice dinners. She's kind of using him actually to meet someone else, to meet another guy. Is that the patriarchy? I don't know. Like, is it like she's making her own choices? If you're saying, well, she couldn't do it without banging her way to the top, maybe in 1983, maybe now that's definitely not the case at all.
Right.
I mean, Kamala Harris fucked her way to the top, but that's beside the point. So I don't know. This seemed like a stretch. This seemed like another of those things where someone who's really not victimized at all, like Laura Dern, who's the daughter of an A-list celebrity, white woman, tries to find victimization somewhere, even if it's like, oh shit, I was a victim. Like, no, you were starring in first of all,
huge
this was
movie,
one of the most famous movies of all time. The Steven Spielberg movie that probably made you insanely rich. And I don't know what her career was like before Jurassic Park, but I mean, this has to be one of the highlights of her career.
Yeah,
certainly wasn't fucking The Last Jedi. So
right.
What was I saying? So
if anything, I feel like it, because I think it's more a testament to how great of an actress she is, because like when I watch the film, it's like, oh, like to me she comes off as like a 37-year-old professor, and I'm not talking about her looks. I'm talking about just the way she presented herself. It's like, oh, she comes off.
She's really good in that movie.
Yeah. But it's like, oh, she's a 23-year-old.
But it's not even like it's not like it's a erotic film. Exactly, like I said, I didn't even remember that they were a couple at all.
Yeah.
Because I'm remembering the Tyrannosaurus and shit like that. Like, so it's not like it was what's the movie that famously there was like a legitimate rape or something? Was The Last Tango in Paris?
Oh,
something like that. Like there was
it's
not like it was that.
Right.
It was like you're playing a fucking character in a movie about dinosaurs.
Right.
And your love interest is 20 years older, and I don't even think they share a kiss.
I don't think so. They hug.
They embrace. Yeah.
At the end.
I don't know. And Sam Neill's like a hunky guy. He has definitely like daddy hunky paleontologist vibes. You could do worse.
Yeah, you know?
Shit. I'd take her role if I got to go see dinosaurs and just drive around with Sam Neill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just identify as Laura Dern, and society's forced to accept you as that.
Yeah. Well, what are they? Are they reprising their roles for
Jurassic Turd? Yeah.
World Dominion. I didn't see the last one. I saw Jurassic World. Yeah. I didn't see whatever the last one was.
It's garbage.
But it works. I love dinosaurs. I was a huge dinosaur kid. I wanted to be a dinosaur. That's when people are like, you know, a transgender 4-year-old should be able to get, you know, gender affirming surgery. It's like I thought I wanted to be a dinosaur when I was 4 years old. Like they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah. I want giant plates attached to my back like a stegosaurus. Like
right.
That's the kind of surgery that we should be advocating for children. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know. I think being a velociraptor would be a lot of fun.
I think so too.
Because it's kind of like this hunt in packs, and they get to chill with their like. It seems fun, just raiding and eating.
Yeah.
I mean, guys being dudes.
Hanging out in kitchens, you know.
Always looking surprised.
Hey, they're very clever too. They're very clever, like that hunter guy said. Oh.
Yeah. So, all right. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah. Yeah. This is
yeah, I've had enough. I've had enough of this shit.
I know. Yeah. We should talk about fun, nice things next time.
No, that's not what we do. That's not what we do on this show.
Oh.
All right.
All right, man. This was fun. Stay reckless.
Yeah, stay reckless, Joe.